Hey guys, happy Saturday. I'm here with the weekly astrology forecast for the week that actually begins tomorrow, Sunday, August 17th, through the following Saturday, the 23rd. If there's an overarching picture or theme, which there is this week, we're going to have some opportunities for healing, personal and collective, with the caveat that it's important to not let our ego get in the way. And it's almost like we're going to catch glimpses of ways forward, of answers, but not so fast. We're going to be wise to not just simply, once we think we've got a little glimpse, to think that that's the entire truth. And I'll get to why I think that's the case. But it's a tremendous week for healing, but it's really about being in our seat of ourself, being authentic to who we are, and also reading the room, reading the flows of energy, and not just simply being willing to finally put our stake in the sand and finally be like, see, I told you, I'm right, you're wrong. It's not quite that simple, even though there's going to be a lot of healing opportunities this week. So let's kick it off on Sunday, the 17th. We have the sun in the latter degrees of Leo for part of this week, which is also brings us some of the themes. So we're at the anaretic degrees with the sun. The sun is at the anaretic degrees of Leo, and then it moves into Virgo at the end of the week, and I'll get to that. But the anaretic degrees of the sun in Leo is kind of could lend itself to that. If Leo has a downside, it's a little too exuberant and a little too prideful and a little too wanting to have all the spotlight on it. Right. So that's kind of part of the caveat and the caution. So Sun in Leo's biquintile Saturn in Aries on Sunday. And that's going to be kind of a neat, the first fortunate thing of we're going to start to see some, if in the ways that we may have felt limited, there's a possibility for some new creative ways forward. And that's going to feel really inspirational and really nice. We also on Monday have Mercury in the sign of Leo sextiling Mars in Libra. So that's going to, again, help us with our communication, but the communication needs to be something that, even though it's forward oriented, it's balanced, it's harmonized, it's for the good of ourselves and the collective. We also have the sun in Leo on Monday biquintile Neptune in Aries. And so that's going to be the part where, if there was a kind of a way that we felt stuck, there's going to be some dissolving of the things that we have just felt like were just true, because that's just we've been trying to do it, and that's just the way it is. And we're going to get these glimpses this week that we're not stuck. But again, the caveat is, just because we're starting to get a breath of fresh air, we're starting to get the wind in our sails, it's not the time to claim victory, and it's not the time to claim that we know all the answers. On Tuesday, the 19th, we have the sun in Leo trining Chiron. And so this is going to be on let me back up. On the 18th, we have the sun trining Eris. On the 19th, we have the sun trining Chiron. Eris and Chiron are pretty much conjunct, although it's not exact, in the sign of Aries. And so to have the sun trining these two, if we think about what Eris and Chiron conjunct would mean in the I am sign, it's about, Chiron's always about our personal challenges, our personal kind of the karmic challenges that our soul in theory self selects to make sure that we are doing the spiritual weightlifting, or that we're going to be in the right place at the right time, and our strengths are going to be there when we need them. And Eris is again reminding us to not act out of ego. And when we're acting out of ego, it's an opportunity for self-destruction, or it can really kind of come back around to challenge us later. And so that's again like that, we're gonna get this kind of wind in our sails experience with the sun in Leo trining Chiron, but also the sun's going to be trining Eris. So it's like a 1-2 thing on Monday and Tuesday, which is, I hope I'm making sense. Something that's been challenging us is going to start to feel like it's flowing, but it's not going to be the time to say that we have the absolute answer. We also on Tuesday have the moon in Cancer, um, conjunct Jupiter. They're both in Cancer. So that's going to be a nice time for us to be able to trust our intuition, be able to trust our emotional intelligence. Just be careful what we do with it. And act from, if there's any way, if there's any antidote to the anaretic degrees of Leo, it's acting from our heart. It's okay if we're in the spotlight, if what we're doing is coming from a space of truth and from our soul's seat, which I would offer is our heart. The next aspect we have is on the 20th, we have the moon opposing Pluto. So that's going to be a beginning to some of the things where there's a caution here that there's, Pluto's going to help us see what's beneath the surface. We're going to get a glimpse of what's happening, but we're going to be wise to kind of remember that there might be another layer. This might be just the beginning of something that if we can follow those flows and stay in our center, we're going to be very well suited. We also on the 21st now have Venus squaring Eris in Aries, and then on the 22nd, she's going to be squaring Chiron in Aries. So Eris and Chiron are part of the theme of this week. And so if we had the flows with the sun trining these two on Monday and Tuesday, Venus squaring, as I mentioned, is again going to be the caution here is about making sure that we're doing something for justice. We're doing something for the highest ideals. We're acting from our heart. We're seeking the values of love and beauty and harmony. And we're not just seeking to be right because we're just so overwhelmed and it's so challenging. I finally can just be right. Darn it. That's that. I'm kind of acting it out, but I think you can see like what the energy of this week is when I'm doing that. So then the next aspects we have so Venus squaring Chiron on Friday, but also on Friday we have Mercury in Leo by quintile the North Node. So this is going to be about new ways of communication. And also, maybe part of the new way of communication is non-reactionary communication. If there's a neat aspect of Venus and the energy of Libra, it would be that it's okay to also be a little strategic. It's okay to say, oh, I'm getting a hit on something here. But you know what? I'm gonna just take a couple deep breaths here. I'm gonna watch this situation. I'm gonna sit with this for a day and I'm gonna come back to it tomorrow. And I'm gonna see if this is still as what I think it is the next day. And that's kind of gonna be one of the ways that we can dance through this week. We also on Friday have the sun leaving Leo and entering into the sign of Virgo, which is an entirely different energy. And Virgo is very detail oriented, but for others. And the sun on Friday the 22nd is going to be quincunx Saturn in Aries, which means there might be this idea of we're going to be turning in and looking at the detail orientation of our own inner world. And we're going to be remembering that we are the microcosm to the macrocosm. So if something felt like it was resolved this week and there was a sense of being right and this sense of other, self versus other, right now we're going to be reminded that law of attraction is just part of the ways that the world works, right? So as above, so below, as within, so without. So if we're experiencing something that feels very unjust, how can we do the inner work within ourselves to harmonize that and to heal that? So that's going to be kind of part of the realizations as we move through Friday. And Friday we also have Jupiter semi-square Uranus. So that would mean that to embrace the challenges is the way through, to be present in the challenges and to keep ourselves, if there's a theme here that's going to start to emerge with Virgo, is tend to our inner temple first. And that is how we resolve everything. And then on next Saturday, I'm going to just be really simple about this. We have a very powerful new moon. We're headed into eclipse season. As always, I'm going to do an entire episode on that particular new moon. Suffice to say, there's another yod. There's another yod, and we have the sun and the moon at 0 degrees of Virgo as the apex of that yod. So this opportunity for healing is going to kind of capitulate itself or come to this sense of really wanting to plant some seeds and engage with the flows of things and the cycles of time. So it's almost as if this week is a little bit of a final purge to prepare us for the seeds that we're going to be planting by next Saturday. And I will get to the podcast for next Saturday later on this week. Definitely keep your eye out for it, because this is the beginning of eclipse season for this fall. And uh, we're not joking around with eclipse season this year. So it's going to be a really awesome opportunity for all sorts of realizations. And if if eclipses signal anything, they're to me kind of like these portals that are totally above and beyond linear time and space. So the types of things where we never thought, we just felt, like I said, like so stuck. And then all of a sudden, something just pops into existence that we didn't even know, or something that was resistance just dissipates. So that's what's exciting about this eclipse season. But I hope that you really enjoy this week. This is a very fortuitous week, and go with the flows and follow your heart and stay in your center. And I think if the caution is to be aware if we're acting out of the need to be right, or if we're acting out of ego, to kind of push pause and wait a day or two to make sure that we really get the whole story. All right, guys, have a beautiful week. I will see you next Saturday.